Cut. This is The Cut. The Cut Podcast with Pete Ferguson. Film, music, games, entertainment. This is The Cut from Telegraph Talk.
Hello and welcome back to The Cut, the Telegraph's weekly entertainment podcast. This week, Clive Morgan has been talking to Katherine Heigl and director Robert Lukic about new film Killers. And he's been chatting to Amy's dad, Mitch Winehouse. You can hear both those interviews in a moment, as well as our film critic Tim Robey mulling over his choice picks for the week. And we'll be looking, as usual, at this week's choice selection of new albums. First up, here's Clive Morgan chatting to Katherine Heigl and Robert Lukic about new film Killers. He began by asking Katherine to describe the new film.
Summer 2010. The Cut from telegraph.co.uk.
It's about, what if you take a suburban girl from Atlanta and she marries James Bond? Because you always see James Bond with these fabulous, sophisticated women who can, pull a knife out of their bikini and kill somebody. I love the idea that Jen is the klutziest, geekiest choice for him.
He's never touched a gun before.
Right.
And holds the gun.
But he loves her for it, And so I thought that was kind of a fun... Ash and I were joking the other day that what makes it believable is that we actually bicker really well.
Yeah.
We bicker on camera really well. And off. But, it was just hilarious, that scene with the pregnancy tests, because that was all pretty improv. But it was so a conversation I have with my own husband that it just felt really natural to have with him. And I'm sure it's a conversation he has with his wife.
Which has performance anxiety while trying to...
I love that, too. I love that scene.
I think this one of the most important elements of a movie, because you can have a movie that's just has lots of spectacular action and scenes and scenery and locations, but if there's nothing pinning you to that, if there's no emotional connection to that, then there is no real the sense of danger isn't there, the sense of adventure isn't there. It can detract from the movie. So the chemistry that you have, that the two leads have, is vital. It must exist, and Catherine Ashton just have it in spades. I think
we had fun. Yeah,
we had fun.
I love Catherine O'Hara's delayed surprise. That really made me laugh.
I know, so genius.
And what about the story? What about the boat ride? That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my God! At the end, when she says, "You remember that boat ride that I took you and your little friend on?"
It's wrong on so many levels.
I mean, don't you just want to know? I really want to know where she was going with that. It was all improv. She was just improving in the moment. But I was
when you watch the movie, you know what we're talking about.
She saw it.
This is The Cut.
And Killers is in cinemas across the UK now. Amy Winehouse's father, Mitch, is releasing his own album, Rush of Love. Is it any good, though? Or is he just jumping on Amy's bandwagon? We caught up with him to ask those questions and more.
Please be kind.
The album was produced by Tony Hiller, who wrote Kisses for Me, and he's written 4 lovely songs for the album. So they sound like old songs, but they're new songs.
I remember seeing Amy, this was going back many years, and you performed a duet with her. I think it was of You Go to My Head. Was that the turning point for you?
I wouldn't say it was a turning point. I would say that I always knew I could sing. At that point, it was just for fun. But, Amy sort of 5 or 6 years ago said, Dad, you should think about doing an album. And then, of course, she was ill, and the timing wasn't right. Now she's much better, and the timing obviously has improved. So, it was the right time to bring the album out.
The album itself is full of love songs of loss and regret. So are you trying to send a message to anyone?
No, not really. They're just songs that I like to sing, one of the songs is I Apologise. I'm not apologising for anything. I might be apologising for my singing, but apart from that, I've got nothing to apologise for.
There's 2 things that people would probably say about this album, that it's either a vanity project for you, or that you're doing it to exploit Amy's fame.
Well, what I would say is I obviously wouldn't be getting the chance to do an album if I wasn't Amy's dad, which is true. There's no question about it. There's no point in me denying it. But ultimately, I think we've got a damn good album out of it. So I don't think it's a vanity object. Without bigging myself up, I think that I've got something to offer in my own right. And I think it stands up on its own. I don't know if you agree, but I think it does.
Do you think that this will help lift you out of her shadow?
I'm her dad. I'm not in her shadow, and I've never even ever think about me being in her shadow. I will always be there because I'm her dad. I don't consider myself in a shadow at all.
Is there any chance of any collaborations with you and Amy in the future?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, we made a decision sort of 15, 16 months ago that we wouldn't collaborate on this album because we both wanted the album, the music and my singing to stand up on its own. You know, I didn't want the safety net of falling back on Amy's name. It would have been easy to do that, but we chose not to do it. And I can really sing any song. And it's then up to people to decide whether they want to buy the album or not.
So on that note, Mitch Winehouse, thank you very much.
My pleasure, very much my pleasure.
If you love me, baby.
And Rush of Love from Amy's dad, Mitch Winehouse, is out now.
Please be kind. Please be kind.
Coming up in a mo, this week's new films, including Ben Stiller's Greenberg.
Summer 2010. The Cut. On Twitter, Facebook and telegraph.co.uk/The Cut.
First, this week's new albums, kicking off with Chemical Brothers' Further. From their new album, this is the aptly named Horsepower. Body Talk from Robin is out this week, featuring the current single Dancing on My Own. If you're into indie rock, you might want to check out the fourth studio album from We Are Scientists, Barbara. And finally, Eminem's new album, Recovery, is due for release very soon, despite leaking online.
You can try and read my lyrics off of this paper before I lay them, but you won't take the sting out these words before I say them, cause ain't no way I'm gonna let you stop me from causing mayhem. When I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. I don't give a damn what you think. I'm doing this for me. The world feeding beings is gassed up. Everything's stopping me. I'ma be what I set out to be, without a doubt, undoubtedly. And all those who look down on me, I'm tearing down your balcony.
As always, the very latest music news and reviews are online at telegraph.co.uk/The Cut and simply follow the links.
The Cut from telegraph.co.uk.
Right, if you're thinking about heading off to the movies this week, make sure you check in with our film critic, Tim Robey, before you make any rash decisions. Okay, Tim, let's talk about the week's film, starting off with Greenberg, which is rated 15, starring Rhys Evans, who I love, and also Ben Stiller. It sounds great already.
Yeah, well, Ben Stiller's the lead character. He is Greenberg, and it's Ben Stiller doing very angry and morose and difficult. I mean, Ben Stiller, at the best of times, fairly angry.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Furious in Mystery Man, you know. But here he's playing a guy who's just been released from kind of a mental health clinic because he's got such serious sort of aggression issues. And he's looking after his brother's house while his brother's away. And begins a relationship with Greta Gerwig, which is quite sort of difficult and unstable and strange. The guy who directed it is the man, Noah Baumbach, who directed The Squid and the Whale and Margot at the Wedding. He sort of specialises in quite kind of spiky, indie kind of comedy drama scenarios with fairly dislikable characters on the whole. And this one is quite funny and it's quite engaging, but it has felt to me like a film that's sort of a bit sub-sideways, you know? It has that same kind of sideways vibe of about a middle-aged man going through a bit of a crisis.
Right.
It doesn't have quite the insight or the comedy really to keep it afloat. It depends a lot, I think, on what your sort of Ben Stiller annoyance threshold is. Like, how irritable can you handle?
There's an episode where he appears in Friends, which is hilarious.
No, there are other really good things about it, though. Rhys Evans good, and Greta Gerwig is really promising, I think, in the female lead.
On to a couple of other films quickly. First of all, Black Death, which is it's a drama horror type film.
Yeah, the director of this one sort of specialises in horror films. It's a British chap, Christopher Smith, who I think gets better with each film. He made Severance and Triangle. This, to me, is his most impressive film so far. It's seriously grim. I mean, it's set in 1348. It's about the Black Death, or at least that's the starting point.
Yeah.
So, you know, buboes and pestilence across the land. And Sean Bean and his fellow kind of emissaries from the bishop have to go and investigate this one village where the Black Death seems to have not affected any of the people. It reminded me a little bit of The Wicker Man. I think he's definitely looked at that, and also Witchfinder General, the great Vincent Price movie from the 60s, or early 70s, I think, which has a similarly kind of grim integrity to it, and it kind of takes itself quite seriously. Good cast. Eddie Redmayne is this young priest who's kind of being brought along as a guide, and some funny faces popping up, like Tim McInerney from Blackadder, who turns up, kind of local blacksmith. But and there's sort of quite funny touches as well as overall grim conviction of the thing. But I thought it was pretty good.
Not necessarily a huge blockbuster, though.
No, I think it's a very cult-ready film in a way, and probably more people will discover it on DVD. But it deserves an audience.
Brilliant. Okay, another alternative is Brooklyn's Finest. This is war, this is Brooklyn.
Yes, now what this looks like is a kind of sprawling, ambitious police drama.
Yep.
You've got Ethan Hawke, Richard Gere and Don Cheadle as these three cops. What it actually is just a bag of old cliches, to be honest. This kind of thinks it's The Wire, but it's just nowhere near as kind of plausible or taut or anything. It feels very baggy.
It's been done a million times.
It's been done a million times and better.
So if I had to push you for a film of the week, would you
For me, it's totally Black Death. I think Black Death is a surprisingly good film.
Excellent. Okay, Tim, as always, thanks very much.
Cheers.
And Black Death has given us the, kiss of death for this week's podcast. But don't worry, next week we'll be alive and kicking with more of the same. You can follow us on twitter.com/The Cut Podcast to see what we're planning. Oh, and while I remember, don't forget to check out our fellow podcast. It's the Formula One podcast from The Telegraph. You can download it in iTunes, but also check it out at telegraph.co.uk/F1. And it's certainly been a very exciting season so far. But that's it for this week's edition of The Cut. Thanks again for listening and subscribing via iTunes. I'm Pete Ferguson, and that was The Cut.